Very pleased, very privileged to catch up with our next guest. The Hall of Famer Mike Bossy drops by to join us now. How you doing, boss?
I'm doing very well, guys. How are you today?
Doing very well. It's so good to hear your voice. I saw you in the lobby of the hotel in Los Angeles, and I was about ready to come over to see you. My cab was coming. Our cab was coming. We were heading for the airport. It looked like you had some family members with you. Did you have children or grandkids with you in Los Angeles?
I brought my granddaughter with me to Los Angeles for the weekend, and it was a beautiful experience.
Yeah, it certainly was for everybody involved. What kind of an experience was it for you, boss, to go and write that Players Tribune column? I read it yesterday. It was fantastic. Hockey fans are talking about it still today. Tell us what it was like for you to kind of look back on your career and offer up advice to your 14-year-old self.
Well, listen, it's always nice to talk about hockey. Always nice to talk about my career. I believe that there's always something new to say. I think, and it often comes out through questions that are asked. And as I mentioned, in the article, there were a lot of things that were extremely important to me during my career. My parents, the New York Islanders, my family, especially my wife, and as I mentioned at the end, Brian Chaute.
Did you really smoke cigarettes during the intermissions, Mike?
My first couple of years, yes, I did.
Everybody did back then.
Well, no, not everybody did, and believe me, I took a lot of flack for doing it from my coach who smoked himself, and from a lot of the players. They just couldn't understand how I could smoke and go out and play.
Yeah, I think everybody looked up to Guy Lafleur back then, though, boss. I'm sure you did as well, and he was smoking 2 packs a day and driving to Monte Carlo. He was doing pretty well himself.
Yeah, you know what? I don't even know if I knew that Guy Lafleur smoked when I was playing. But listen, it's not something I'm proud of. I don't try and tell any of the kids that hear that it was a good thing for me and it helped me score goals.
The one thing I didn't know until I read that Players Tribune column yesterday, boss, was that you met your wife, and she was at one time that cute girl that was working behind the snack bar. Tell us about how that all transpired.
Absolutely. I moved to Laval when I was 14, as I mentioned in the article, and started playing at Chamonix Arena for the Chamonix team midget. And I, going to practice, noticed that there was this girl that I'd like to get to know at the snack bar, and I was unbelievably timid, shy, couldn't get a word out of my mouth. And not only that, but she spoke French and I spoke English, so it became extremely difficult. And I ended up basically buying chocolate bars to get a chance to say a couple of words to her every day, and then it blossomed into what it is today, which is our 40-year marriage anniversary this summer.
Hey, Mike, I talk all the time on this channel about goal scorers and guys who are capable of 30 or 40 in this league, which would have been 50 or 60 in your day. And people want to pick on them for their defensive liabilities or if they're not blocking enough shots, guys like Mike Hoffman in Ottawa. And I say, if I got a guy who can score 40, I wouldn't even ask him to come back in my own zone. I'd just say, go out and score goals. And you wrote about that, and basically that's what Al Arbour came to you with when you were a rookie.
Well, I think the difference is that back in the day, we had a defensive structure and a defensive team, and I played with guys, especially Brian, who took his defensive game extremely important. It was important to him to be good defensively. It was important for everybody on the team to be good defensively. So that basically came by itself. And when Al told me to go out and play my game and do what I did well and what they drafted me for, it just gave me so much confidence. It really liberated me into thinking that, yes, I had a chance to play. And listen, I was after a couple of weeks, I was playing right wing with Brian Trotty and Clark Gillies on the left side, so that certainly helped also.
I tell you what now, Bossy, with the way the game's being played now, fourth liners are playing 10 or 12 minutes a night. Fourth liners are able to score 15 goals if they play consistently. Fourth liners aren't necessarily just tough guys anymore. They're going to be out there fighting and that sort of thing. I saw a picture yesterday of Bobby Orr's knee brace from when he played, his first ever knee brace, and it just looked like something that was unthinkable that he could actually even take the ice wearing that thing, because it was just so uncomfortable. I think I would have guessed that he wore. Do you think about the way the game is being played now? Because surely you must like it with the speed and the skill that these guys bring to the table, and think, man, if I had played in this age, how many would I have scored?
Well, the game is completely different now than it was back in the day. You're right. Speed dominates in the NHL right now, and they've changed the rules. So, they've taken a lot of the hindrance for speed out of the game right now. And, yes, there are games that are a lot of fun to watch. There are some that are extremely boring to watch. But listen, I would imagine that back in the day that I played, that there were some that were fun to watch and some that were boring to watch also. But there's still a lot of talent in the NHL. There's still a lot of guys that I enjoy watching. It's two different eras, two different types of players. I always say that everybody who played in my day would have adjusted to the way that the game is played today, and vice versa with the players that played today. So it's all good. Hockey is still a great game.
Got to ask you before we let you go, we've got about a minute and a half left. You were in the headlines earlier this week proposing that perhaps the Islanders should look at trading John Tavares. This is a key offseason for the Isles and their team captain. How do you think and where do you think this is going to go, Mike?
I'm so glad that you're giving me a chance to respond to that. I work on a radio show here, and the subject was brought up of the Canadians at one point tried to trade Carey Price, Pacioretty, and Galchenyuk for Vincent Lecavalier. And I was trying to find an equivalent to that trade today. And I said an equivalent to that trade today would probably be Sergachev, Lindgren, Galchenyuk, a first-rounder for John Tavares. I never suggested the Islanders trade John Tavares. If they tried to trade John Tavares, I'd be on the phone first thing with the owners and with Garth Snow, because John Tavares is the New York Islanders, and I don't want to see them getting rid of John unless he decides that he moves on.
All right. Well, I'm glad you were able to clarify that for us. That's fantastic to hear that we're able to get the true word of what you said out there. Boss, we've missed you. It's great to catch up with you. Thank you very much for joining us. No doubt we'll talk down the road, and enjoy the rest of the Stanley Cup final.
Sounds great. You guys too.